I just washed my fabric too, so it's nice and warm and it smells like fabric softener. Hello lovelies! Welcome back to another sewing vlog. This time we are trying to do a 1-day build, but more like a 1.5 day build. I don't know if you've ever seen Adam Savage's 1-day build, but basically the concept is you build something in 24 hours. Well, we're doing something similar because first, I don't like working for 24 hours straight. I'll just be very honest with you. But also, I'm going to the Renaissance Festival on Saturday. It is Thursday at 1 p.m. I have somewhere to be tonight at about 6 o'clock. So, basically my idea is to make a gown for the Renaissance Festival to combat the Georgia heat and humidity. So something that is washable, something that is breathable, something that is lighter colored but still kind of vibes with like my fantasy, like dark aesthetic. If that makes sense. So here's my plan. I'm going to use Bodice pattern 4571. It's a like fantasy medieval style dress, not like historical medieval, but like they looked at pictures and said, but I want to do that, but with fancy sleeves. Does that make sense? Anyway, so I'm basically going to make this dress. I'm going to attempt to make it in, like I said, about 1.5-ish days and then wear it to the Ren Fair. So I've purchased 6 yards of this gray rayon and 6 yards of this white rayon, and I plan to start by ironing everything, cutting all the pieces out, cutting the pattern pieces out, and then reading the pattern. My thought was, because most of the pieces of this garment need to be lined in order, like just that's structurally how it's made, I could basically do a double skirt for the skirt portion of it, like not line it, but cut out a white and a gray version of the skirt and then have the gray on top and the white underneath, so like it's not completely see-through, but they won't actually be like attached together. So I'm not flatlining or any of that jazz. It's literally going to be a white skirt with a gray skirt on top, which also means if I wanted to get real fancy at some point, I could do like a fun little detail where I like pin up the gray bits a little bit and dangle them down and then have the white shine through. Possibly, I don't know. The world is my oyster. But either way, that's the plan. I also bought a silver trim to go with this so that I can make a belt out of it. And then I thought too, the neckline could use this trim maybe. I am cheating, very much so. I will not be doing a lace-up back. The main reason is 1.5 day build. But also, I prefer to do a zipper in something that I think I'm going to wear, something that I want to have like rewearability with, I guess is what I'm saying. I wouldn't mind wearing this to the Ren Fair or any kind of event where like I just need a fantasy looking dress. Again, does that make sense? So I do have an invisible zipper. The great thing too about having an invisible zipper is if I decided later down the road that I would like to have this garment lace up in the back, we already know that it fits me well enough with a zipper, so I can take the zipper out and put grommets in it later. But I can't exactly take out grommets to put a zipper in it later. So that's where I'm at with this. Also, I would like to be able to get in and out of this by myself. Just a vibe. Roll with it. So that's the plan. Today's goal, press fabric, cut all the pieces out, read the instructions, and come up with a game plan and start executing that game plan. So if that means that I have to batch sew some pieces, I do. I also plan to do a lot of this on my overlock machine so that I can, for the long panels of the skirts, I'm just gonna overlock those, which is super lickety-split fast. I also planned to do a rolled hem on my overlock machine versus a rolled hem like a pressed hem, things like that I'm just gonna modernize and speed up with the hopes that I save some time and can get this done. I think that's everything. Let's get started. I just washed my fabric too, so it's nice and warm and it smells like fabric softener. All right, so I have everything cut out and I am ready to sit down with the instructions tomorrow and get sewing on this. So I guess I will see you all tomorrow. Okay, so according to the instructions, they want us to put the bodice together and then the skirt, attach the skirt to the bodice and then put the sleeves together and attach the sleeves to the bodice, finish up with trim and closures. I am going to rearrange this order a little bit for the purpose of fittings. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that the skirts will fit fine, so I'm going to do the bodice and I'm gonna batch sew things because in this it says like all these steps about putting the bodice together and then it says repeat with the lining or like prepare bodice lining sections in the same manner. So we're just gonna do them at the same time. But with the lining, I'm going to do a small fitting to see how it fits and then make the adjustments to the regular one and then start doing the sleeves and do a fitting to kind of see how those fit and then move on to the skirts. I just think that's a little bit easier, especially because I'm pretty confident the skirts will be fine. I still need to cut out pockets. I completely forgot to do that yesterday. So I have to cut out pockets, but I'm pretty confident that I can get this put together in a day. I am going to opt out of the trim on the waist because I'm making a belt with that trim, and then I'm gonna do the trim on the neckline and the sleeve. I just like the way a belt looks better. That's all. Just like it better. All right, let's go upstairs and start sewing. So I'm going to start by pinning and sewing the darts, followed by all of the bodice pieces together, both the lining, which is in white, as well as the gray, which is the fashion fabric. At this point, I just did a really quick fitting and made some adjustments mainly to the side seam, the darts, and the back. And now I'm going to sew these two pieces with their right sides together. Then I will press and prep this area for understitching. I also am going to take this opportunity to press the bottom hem in about a half an inch. This is going to end up getting hand stitched to the skirts later on. Finally, I add the trim. Moving on to the sleeves, I started with the top portion and I sewed those together, both the lining and the outer fabric, and then I pressed this bottom hem inside. That's for hand sewing later, and then I pinned the top part together. After that, I took to the larger piece, the piece that's like dangly and pretty looking, and I sewed those two pieces together, right sides together, and then I flipped them, cut the little corners, pressed them, and I will sew those onto the little cap that you saw earlier. I should also note that I decided I was going to sew the silver trim onto the gray portion of this fabric before sewing up the sleeve, and I feel like that was a huge mistake, mostly because of fit issues, but I think that that would have been smart to do had I done a fitting with the whole sleeve, like a mock-up and a fitting with the whole sleeve. Needless to say, it doesn't look great. Then I sew the bottom portions of the sleeves. Honestly, I wish I had left these parts out. They were really warm, and because I decided not to understitch the little point here, I had major issues with it like flipping and being all weird. But after I do this, I will sew it inside the other part of the sleeve, as you can see here, following the instructions on the pattern, and then I will, after this, I will hand sew the lining over this, and all of that edge will be clean. For the skirt, I use my seam ripper to seam all of the pieces together, and then I decided to use my seam ripper to also do the rolled hem at the bottom. I did use a gray thread on the white. I didn't really care about changing my thread color or anything like that. At this point, it was already 5 p.m. and I still had to add the skirt, hem everything, sew up the zipper, hand stitch the inside pieces. There was just a lot that still needed to get done, and I was like, YOLO. All right, so I did finish it. We are still here on day 2. It's 7 p.m. And I have lots of issues with it. The first major issue is this trim that I chose, which would have been great if I just used it for a belt and then said find a different silver trim. It is very papery and waxy, and it isn't super malleable, so like it just pulls at the front really weird. Also, on the sleeves, we're gonna start with the sleeves. The bottom part of the sleeve was way too big. Like I had to sew an inch seam allowance, and then the top part was fine. Like it wasn't too big, but it also, like it wasn't so big that it felt weird. It felt like okay. So I didn't take it in an inch. I just did it, right? But when I went to take it in, it created this weird little like puckery bubble thing on the trim, which I think looks awful. I could put a gem or something on it if I really wanted to. I don't know what. Like, is that going to be gaudy? I don't know. So that's on each sleeve. Don't like that. It's also too large in the top still, even though I took an inch off of the back, half an inch off of the front, and a half an inch off of the side. It's still too large, and it's mostly too large in the sleeve area, like in the shoulder, which I didn't even think about adjusting, which makes complete sense when I think about like what Toby was showing me with the back. I don't know. So it's doable. Oh, I also forgot pockets. So it's doable.
Like dance with the water.
Swamp hag. Not the swamp hag.
Dun dun. Dun dun. Dun 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 dun. Oh god. Oh. Okay. Okay.